Huge classic tune there from Billy Squier from the Don't Say No album, which is celebrating, hard to believe, its 30th anniversary with a special edition, In the Dark. And we welcome back to the studio when this man left, I think it was just a couple months ago. We said, we must continue the second half of your career, and he has made good on his word, and he is here with us for part two, the one and only Billy Squier. Good to see you again.
Round two in the ring. Here we go. Here we go.
Exactly. I didn't scare you off last time. You're back for more.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed that.
Well, I'm glad. Well, a lot of our listeners did. I got a tremendously great response to you being here last time, and people saying they really loved hearing from you. And, because you're not a guy that's out there all that much talking to people and doing a lot of this stuff, right?
No, as my friend Joe Perry likes to say, let the music do the talking.
Right.
And I'm kind of, I like to talk, once I get going, but it's not what I'm about. It's not, that's, I would have been, and I remember back in the Tom Snyder show years ago, and Tom asked me what I'd do if I weren't a musician. I said, maybe I'll be a talk show host, but so far I can still play guitar. The fingers are still moving, so I think I'll stick with that.
When you were more active in your career in terms of putting out records and touring on a more regular basis, was doing press, doing TV, doing radio, was it something you kind of cringed at doing, or did you embrace it a little more back then?
Well, I'd say I reluctantly embraced it.
Right.
It was something that I understood why it would be good for me to do it.
Right.
And I certainly, as far as radio goes, something like that, they're playing your records. You appreciate that. So, you want to be involved in it. It's certainly not a bad thing. It just gets tiring talking about yourself all the time, and you get the same questions over and over again for the most part. And it just, it can be tedious. It's not something which is fun. And if you're out, you're on the road for a while and you're up all night and doing this and that, whatever, and doing these shows and traveling, you're on the bus, and you don't want to get off and go off and talk about yourself for 3 hours when you might be able to be, hanging back a little bit.
Well, especially as a singer. I hear that a lot from singers, that they want to rest their voice and not do too much of that. You've never really had any real vocal issues, have you, in your career as a singer? No real illnesses?
No, I haven't. I was really lucky because when I started singing, when I decided that I wanted to be a singer, which came about when I was in my mid-20s, I was playing this band, but the lead singer had like a little different agenda than I had, which was he was very caught up in being a pop star and trying to get on the cover of Teen Magazine and stuff like that. And I didn't feel like his work ethic was that good. And one night we were on stage, and I looked over as we were playing, and I said to myself, this guy is ruining my career. And so I quit, and I decided I'm going to sing because I could sing. I was a good singer. But I was always singing, backups and stuff because I'm playing guitar. So I always had a singer in the band, and decided to start singing. And I was living in Boston, and across the hall from me was an opera singer who used to drive me nuts because every day he'd be doing his scales and all these exercises. But I thought maybe there's something to this because I wanted to, I knew kind of what I wanted, where I wanted to be. The guys who I dug, Rod and Paul Rogers, and these guys could all really do it.
Right.
So I went over and I started talking to him. I said, "Can you teach me anything?" And he gave me one lesson. He taught me how to breathe, and that's helped. That's one of the main things that saved my voice is breathing properly and directing your voice out of your throat. A lot of times singers say they're going for a high note and they're doing it in their throat, and it just tightens your throat up and stretches it and, wreaks havoc with it. If you learn how to project the sound or visualize the sound of your voice in a place other than your throat, it makes a huge difference. It's breathing, it's how to support your your breath, and this sort of deflection of sound. And I've never had any problems. But I also try to take care of it. Yeah. And like you said, after shows, I won't be out, beating myself up. I will get a lot of sleep when I'm on the road.
Right.
I will not be out doing stuff in the day. I'll go out and take walks or something. But
Right.
I'll go by myself, so I'm not talking. I just, I really try to cool it.
There are guys that I've talked to who have this, as far as singers are concerned, have this huge warm-up routine that they go through backstage. I've seen it firsthand. Then there are others like my dear late friend Ronnie James Dio, who I've been in his dressing room minutes before he's gone on, and he literally, we finished our conversation, he gets up, went out on stage, and just sang. He never did anything. And he sang brilliantly in through his last days. Do you have a process as far as that's concerned, or you just go for it?
No, that's pretty much the camp I fall into.
Yeah, just get up and do it.
I mean, the last tour, my routine was before we go on, you play "Won't Get Fooled Again," which is just it's a classic then, it's classic now.
Over the PA or the band?
Over the
plays it?
PA.
Okay,
over
right.
the PA. And so I would hear it, come on, and then I get my in-ears out and I put them in, and I hear it. And I'm getting ready, and I'm doing my hair because my hair was growing back, and so I had to start worry about all that
The important stuff.
all that nonsense. No, complete nonsense. Really makes you sound much better.
Right.
And then as the track was going on, I would sing along with it a little bit, and that would be my warm-up.
Yeah.
But which would culminate with that scream.
Yeah.
And then I'd go out, and that would be it.
Do you?
But it wasn't much. I mean, basically, I'm okay. I don't have to do that.
We have a lot to cover, and we want to talk about some of the albums after "Don't Say No," which, of course, we.
But I have to jump in first.
Please do.
Which I guess I just did.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're talking about the interview, and I said I enjoyed it, and you said a lot of people enjoyed it. And I think that we have to give you some credit for that.
Well, thank you.
For being a very good interviewer and involved and prepared and interested interviewer.
Well, thank you.
And this leads me to the story that I told you I was going to tell you about before this started. You did, did you MC the shows called Rockin' America? Is that what
Yes. The
festival?
first time it happened was this past July in Oklahoma City, and I was the 3-day MC, just kind of introducing all the bands that played.
And who were some of the bands who played? Just tell me a few that.
Scorpions, Twisted Sister, Rat, Dokken, Lynch Mob.
Okay, that's enough. So we
Okay.
get so the listeners get an idea
Yeah.
what kind of festival it was. I mentor a kid who lives down in Oklahoma. He's 14 years old. Help him with his songwriting and his singing and playing and stuff like that. He wrote to me, and he told me that he went to Rockin' America and met a few of these people he was talking about, and finished up by saying that the person who I wanted to meet the most and enjoyed meeting the most was EddieTrunk.
Wow.
That's what I said.
Billy was like, who knew?
No, and I want you to know
Did
that.
he meet me?
He did meet. Yes, you did.
Okay.
I could send you a picture.
All right. So we took a picture.
I think so. I mean,
Okay.
he definitely met you. I mean, there's no question. We won't belabor, but he definitely met you. At least said hello, shook hands, whatever.
I'm glad.
And he said that was the thrill of the whole event for him, was not meeting these other clowns.
Well, look, I mean, when I have the opportunity to do those things, and I do a few a year, I mean, it's amazing to me. I guess after doing this for nearly 30 years, it's kind of sunk in with a lot of people, and it's really cool. For me, all the artists I've gotten to know so well, and many are friends over the years, but that particular one, I was most excited because Michael Schenker was there. So that was the guy I was kind of following around like a puppy dog saying, Michael, UFO, this, that. So everybody's got their thing, just like if how did you come to mentor a musician or aspiring musician in Oklahoma?
He was at a show of mine last year, and he was in the first row with his head on the stage, and was really into me. It was just one of those things that just clicked. I don't know if it reminded me of when I was looking at Clapton that way or something.
How old? How old is he?
He's 15 now. He was almost 14 then. But he was there with his parents, and I don't know. There was just something in his eye, that I thought, he's really into this. He really, I felt that it really meant something to him. So I just got him back. It was a little bit lengthy. I won't do the whole story. I didn't meet him right after the show, but we got in touch after that, and he came to another show. And then most of what we do is over, via email, or he'll send me a little tape. I hooked him up with a little studio, and he makes makes little recordings and sends them, and I critique them and help them and stuff like that.
But he's making original music.
He's starting to, yeah.
That's great.
So I didn't do when I was 14. I wasn't doing original stuff.
That's to have a mentor like Billy Squier teaching him how, giving him instruction on writing and doing original music is really, in this day and age of people basically just, American Idol is doing other people's songs and whatever, having original music. Because as I've told you before, I've always felt that the talent, there's a million great guitar players, a million great singers out there, and that's all great. But to me, the talent I'm most impressed by, and that just comes square into your world, is the ability to write great songs. And that to me is something that not as many people, I think, possess.
I would agree. It makes things, better for me, I guess.
Yeah, it does. Well, that's a good segue into picking up where we left off. And in case you just tuned in, this is not a replay of a show a couple months ago. This is an all-new show. We're live tonight on November 1st here in New York City. Billy Squier has joined me once again here on EddieTrunk Live. Last time you were in, we covered your early portion of your career, the really early stuff, Piper, the first two Piper records, Tale of the Tape, and of course that visit was very much about the 30th anniversary of your landmark album, Don't Say No, special edition of which is available in the stores now. And, we didn't want to cram in the very sizable part of that following Don't Say No into 5 seconds before. So, I think to kind of bookend that a little bit, I'd like to pick up and ask you what happened as a result of Don't Say No in your career. Because it was a monstrous success. For the first time in your life, you're tasting all the fruits of your labor, so to speak. The world is yours.
Yeah, well, I finally got where I thought I wanted to be. I don't think. How should I say? I don't know how much there is to say about it because it was such a obvious dramatic success that it was what I'd worked my life to do.
How do you handle it?
And I would say.
The first big check comes in. Do you go crazy and buy a giant house and a new car, or do you just kind of take a deep breath?
I didn't actually. I didn't buy anything. I bought a car. I bought my first car maybe. Well, actually, yeah, after Don't Say No. Between Don't Say No and Making Emotions, I'd never owned a car. I didn't want a car until I could get the car I wanted. So I got a Porsche. I got an 82 SC. It had it built for me in the factory in Germany.
It's a nice first car.
And took delivery on my birthday when I was mixing Emotions.
Wow.
So that was a little treat. But what I was going to say was I think that when something like that happens, it isn't like it hits you totally by surprise. I mean, I was in the game. I was working at it. I knew I was getting better. I was having some response, and I knew that the record for me was everything that I wanted it to be. So I guess what I was saying was when it happened, it wasn't like I was totally surprised. It wasn't like, oh my God, I've won the lottery. It was like, I'm already in it. It's like the train leaves the station, but it doesn't take off at bullet train speed. You're going slowly. So the record comes out. We're getting some airplay. I start doing dates. I'm opening up for people. Then I'm opening up for more people. Then I'm getting big tours. Then and it kind of builds in stages. So when you get to the point where you're the artist of the year and you've sold 3 million records and blah blah blah, it didn't come overnight.
Yeah.
I mean, it still feels great, but I'm already thinking about the next record. You're kind of it's a whole sort of sequence or how should I say, lifestyle which is around it. A lot of components that you're already aware of. So you're not standing on the sidelines looking and going, oh wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, we talked last time you were here a lot about Don't Say No and that reissue. So moving forward to that, but before we move forward to Emotions, to date, what is Don't Say No sold? How many copies do you know?
I don't know.
Ballpark?
I don't pay attention, to be honest. I mean, I'm sure it's over 4.
Right.
But I don't check statements and stuff like that. I mean, that record is what it is, and I know what it is, and I think the people who have it know what it is, and I think everyone should have one, but
yeah, they should. I mean, absolutely. Internationally, did it have an impact outside of America?
Not tremendously.
All? No.
My career has been very U.S. centric, and not by design, really. I don't know. we may have talked about it the last time. I have no idea why the Billy Squier phenomenon that took America did not translate. It'd be easy to blame the record company. And they certainly had a part of it. But I mean, I don't know. I do not know, especially because I don't think my music is particularly American.
Right.
I mean, if you think of someone like Bruce or Mellencamp or something like that, who or Seeger, these guys
real American,
who are real American,
stuff,
and who are also very popular overseas.
Right.
And if you listen to Billy Squier, I mean, for years people thought I was English.
Right.
And my influences are much more English musically. So I don't know what the breakdown was there.
So the hysteria ensues with Don't Say No. Few million albums sold. Billy Squier becomes this household entity in the rock world back in the early 80s. And now you're preparing for the follow-up, which is always a daunting task for most artists who have that huge breakthrough. How did you handle it, and what was your mindset going into what would be your third solo album, Emotions Emotion?
Yeah, I actually tried to loosely follow the playbook for Don't Say No. I mean, I wasn't trying to make Don't Say No 2, but I tried to make Emotions in much the same way, and I putting the songs together and pacing it, sticking musically in the same kind of ballpark. I found, and I know we talked about this in the last interview, that with Don't Say No, I tried to consolidate my writing a little bit, and I tried to, rather than write about take all my influences and get them on the record, I tried to say, well, who do I want Billy Squier to really be? And so I tried to cut off some of the fringes, the tails of my musical influences, and consolidate or create more of a Billy Squier sound. And in Emotions, I tried to stick with that.
Right.
I knew, I had a feeling of what that was, and I tried to do it. And you've got, you have one ballad on Don't Say No, you got a ballad on Emotions. You've got,
same production team.
You got In the Dark starts with a big sound, and Everybody Wants You starts with a motorcycle. I mean,
right.
As I said, those are things I could say maybe more pointed comparisons, but I was trying to stick with what worked.
How do you feel that it in terms of a comparison to Don't Say No, in retrospect, do you feel that it's right there, or do you feel it's an album that should get the same accolades as Don't Say No, or it wasn't quite as on the mark?
I think it's hard to expect any, this will sound very egotistical, but I don't mean it that way. It's hard to expect any record of mine to completely stand up to Don't Say No, because I think Don't Say No is virtually a perfect record for me, for Billy.
Right.
It really and it's one of those records to me that I think, for whatever reason or reasons, everything worked. The players, the producer, the studio, everything. I mean, if I'm going to do that record over, I do it the same way. I would do the same thing. It really works, and it works from the beginning to end. I hear repeatedly, people never talk about Don't Say No in any other way except the whole record. They don't, they talk about songs, but it's always like this experience. So it's hard to expect that you can get all the stars completely aligned like that. But having said that, I think Emotions is a great record. I think it holds up extremely well.
The material for this, when you're writing it, did it happen a lot on the tour for Don't Say No? Because really only a year between records. These days it's uncommon somewhat common to go 2-3 years for artists between records, but quick turnaround.
I got to that later.
Quick turnaround though, especially when you consider the success of Don't Say No to have this album come out. So when you were writing it, was it on the road, and did you feel any pressure knowing that Don't Say No had been your breakthrough to in the writing process?
I'm sure there was pressure there, but I wasn't freaked out about it. I wasn't writing on the road, but my modus operandi tended to be that when I'd be on the road, I'd be like tuning up before a show or so. I'd always have a tape recorder there, and I'm just bashing around. If I played a riff I liked, I'd record it. And I'd always have a notebook with me, and if I came up with a title I liked, I'd put it down, or an idea for something. So when it came to write it, I would take out my notebook and I'd take out my tape recorder. It's like really putting a puzzle together. I listen to all these bits and go, I like that one. I like that one. And then like, oh, wait a second, that fits with this. You know, and then basically it's fill in the blanks. But I wrote, so once I started writing, I mean, I wrote Emotions in 2 weeks.
I want to play something from it, but before we do, the last thing I want to ask you, and we talked about this last time you were here, Freddie Mercury turns up on the Enough Is Enough album with Love Is the Hero, which is a brilliant song and performance, but this is the first time he appeared on one of your records on the title track to
He did.
Emotions, Emotion. Tell me how that came about.
Well, I was working with Mac again, and Mac was still working with Queen, and we were at Power Station, and I had known these guys since '73. I met Queen when they first came to America.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I'd seen them since then. When they'd come over, I would always see them. So we were friends at a distance, but we'd known each other. So they came in the studio one night, and we were doing Emotions, and Freddie is just like this. He's just standing there listening, and he goes, I got an idea. I've seen him do this so many times. He goes, turn up, give me a track. And he just goes out and starts, doing his thing, and we were like, this is good. This is good. So we had him doing that for a while, and then I had Roger come back later. When we were in Germany, I had Roger fly down, because Roger has a great, sort of a high octane voice.
Roger Taylor.
Yeah, all those screaming high parts, or Roger, and the things.
So Roger's
I'm in love with
Roger, but is Roger on your album?
Yeah, Roger's there too.
Well, he's in Emotions, Emotion
He's
in
on
that
it,
mix.
too. Yeah.
Okay.
He's not doing. Freddie's doing the heavy breathing, and Roger's is singing. Is singing the chorus.
Right.
But Roger has a great voice. When you listen to songs like I'm in love with my car and stuff like that. I mean, he was like the real rock singer in the band.
Yeah.
The sort of classic rock singer in the band.
Absolutely. Well, let's play something from Emotions in Motion as we continue this tour through the amazing catalog of Billy Squier, who is live in our studio here on EddieTrunk Live, Sirius XM, The Boneyard, continuing our conversation where we left it off. When was it you were here? A couple months ago, right? Was it 8 weeks ago, something like that? A couple months?
Not that long. Not so long ago.
Yeah. 1982, the album comes out, and we talked about the song Emotions in Motion, which I guess would make some logical sense to play right now if we're going to play something from this, but I don't know. I mean, I have tracks on here that I love more than that song. Do you have something you want people to hear as the representative of this album?
What would you like?
Give
me a couple
Learn
of
How
choices.
to Live is one of my all-time favorite Billy Squier songs.
No, you'll have to play it.
And
it's your show. You've earned the right to play what you like.
And she's a runner. Quick funny story on this. When I was doing radio when this record came out, my radio station in New Jersey, a gentleman by the name of John Bon Jovi would call in and request that particular song on my request line. She's a runner. So that's another great one. There's so much great stuff on here. It Keeps You Rockin's a great song. But Learn How to Live has always been one of my all-time favorites. And I will play that one from this. Any backstory on who this? Can you tell who this was addressed to at the time, or was it really to nobody?
It was really it was really kind of one of those things where I'm reflecting on observations of life and experiences. No, it's not direct. It's not a true love song or
there was no
angst song in that.
No
but
direct
it was
inspiration.
Certainly came out of experiences. They all do.
Yeah. Let's do it right now. This is from Emotions in Motion. We'll continue chatting with Billy Squier, moving forward through his career, and this is Learn How to Live. Oh,
no,
that's not Learn How to Live.
But that's a good song, too.
That's a great song, 4-letter word. Hold on a minute, I have the wrong CD in. It was working so well up to then, wasn't it? Damn. It's what happened was I'm playing it from the compilation.
But in sequence, in a way, lyrically, it probably would be good to play 4-letter word first and then Learn How to Live. That would... thematically, I can go with that.
I had disc 2 of the anthology in instead of disc 1. This should be Learn How to Live. Yes, it is. We'll be back with more.